Hi, I'm Dr. Ryan. I'm one of the associate veterinarians with Family Pet Veterinary Centers, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time here today to share some information with you about some harmful substances that are toxic to our pets. We may be seeing more of this during the holiday season, but we can have issues with these throughout the entire year. The two toxic substances that we're going to highlight here at this time are going to be chocolate and xylitol, which is an artificial sweetener. So for chocolate, obviously we all love chocolate, but unfortunately for dogs and cats, chocolate can be quite harmful. There are many different types of chocolate, and they range in toxicity based on the type of chocolate that the pet ingests. So milk chocolate and white chocolate are less toxic, but as we get into baking chocolate and cocoa powder, those are much more toxic. So if your pet ever ingests any type of chocolate, it's always important to know what type it is so we can figure out how much of the toxic chemicals are in whatever they consumed. And the toxic component to chocolate are a group of substances called methylxanthines. And specifically in chocolate, the two that cause the issues are caffeine and theobromine. And these are very similar in effect, but they cause a variety of problems. And these problems can occur anywhere from 1 to 4 hours after they ingest the chocolate, but symptoms can last much longer beyond that. And initially we can see symptoms such as vomiting and diarrhea, but as the toxicity levels increase, we can start to see hyperexcitability, anxiety, tremors, seizures, even heart arrhythmias, and as they progress, can even have seizures, and it can be fatal. So it's very important to always contact us if you suspect or know that your pet ingested some chocolate, so we can determine the appropriate course of action. Now, if your pet does ingest chocolate, usually we're going to recommend bringing your pet in so we can induce vomiting, in essence trying to get that chocolate out of their stomach. Now, the good thing is that chocolate sometimes will stay in the stomach for up to 12 hours. So there's always a good likelihood we can get a lot of that chocolate out after they ingest it. Now, of course, some of it may pass already into the intestines where it's going to be absorbed, but hopefully we can get most of it out. Treatment for chocolate toxicity then, we would start with, again, inducing vomiting, getting the material out of the stomach so we can minimize those toxic effects. We'll also often give a activated charcoal product that then will bind up the remaining chocolate that did make it through the stomach in the intestines to hopefully, again, minimize absorption through the intestines. We then have to, monitor for those side effects of the chocolate. If we start seeing any of those symptoms, we will have to manage those as well. But often we're quite successful at just getting the chocolate out of the stomach to prevent those toxic side effects. Okay, and that brings us to our second harmful substance, which is xylitol. And xylitol is an artificial sweetener. And a lot of different products contain artificial sweeteners, so it's always important to check. Anytime you might be baking a treat at home that your pet may eat, even skin lotions, even uncommon things that you might not think would have xylitol, such as peanut butter. Peanut butter is a common treat for pets, so it's always important to check the ingredient list to make sure none of the products that you're using or that they have ingested contain xylitol. Now, the harmful effects of xylitol are caused by the direct action of insulin in the body. The body sees this xylitol as a super potent type of sugar, even though it's an artificial sweetener, and immediately starts releasing a lot of insulin. And so the effects that we see from this dramatic drop in insulin can happen anywhere from 30 minutes after ingestion up to 12 hours later, depending on the absorption rate of whatever it is your pet ate. So it's always important to make sure you call us as soon as possible to let us know so we can get your pet in and figure out the appropriate treatment. Now, symptoms of xylitol toxicity can start off often with just vomiting and diarrhea, but as those glucose levels in the body drop, which is called hypoglycemia, we can start to see lethargy, weakness, incoordination, collapse. We can see seizures, and unfortunately, this can also be fatal. Now, in some other rare instances, we can also see acute liver failure with xylitol ingestion if they've ingested a large amount. Now, the amounts of xylitol in certain products varies. For example, in some pieces of gum, we might have very small quantities, and we may have very large quantities in other types of gum. So again, please always have the packaging available so we can find out the concentrations of xylitol in whatever your pet ate. Now, treatment for xylitol toxicity are symptomatic for vomiting and diarrhea. But the most important thing is going to be managing the low blood sugar. And so, these pets that have ingested any xylitol containing ingredient are usually going to have to be hospitalized for hours to even a day or more to combat that low blood sugar level by substituting or adding in a form of sugar in their IV fluids and monitoring their levels very closely along with their liver values. So this can be a very involved process. In some cases, we can induce vomiting to get them to bring up the product or the substance that contains the xylitol. But because it's so quickly absorbed in the body, that may not be effective in every case. So again, continued monitoring of blood work and supportive care with IV fluids and substituting sugar is critical in these patients. Now, one of the other problems with either chocolate ingestion or xylitol ingestion is exactly what they ate. In a lot of cases, the foods come wrapped in, sometimes paper materials, sometimes it's plastic, sometimes it's a cardboard box. And that itself can be another problem to deal with, because if they ingested enough of that foreign material, now we may be also dealing with a foreign body issue, which can get obstructed in the stomach or in the intestines. And that can pose a whole different set of risks for, your pet. So again, best way to obviously prevent any of this is to really keep a close eye on what they can get a hold of and make sure we keep those treats and other human foods that they can get a hold of well out of reach. Dogs are quite clever, and cats as far as getting up on countertops and getting into the closet and getting into different areas where we might be storing some of these things. So it's just really important that we try to prevent them from ingesting these things rather than trying to treat them once they've already consumed them. Please feel free anytime to give us a call if you have any questions about either of these problems, or if your pet has ingested something and you're concerned, call us right away. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.